Hey guys, welcome back to the Dipity music review series. I'm Jez Marie, aka Vivnaforo. So, today we will be covering a song titled The Blue, and it's by an artist who has the name CHESUQI. It goes by CHESUQI. I believe that's the pronunciation of it. If I'm wrong, I do apologize. But yeah, for some reason, I was initially saying Chesuki, but it could be Chesuki. And because I am not 100% certain on the pronunciation, I may say chess sometimes for short, mostly in this review. So yeah, I'm going to play a bit of it for you guys and then we'll talk about it. Yeah. So here we go. Yeah. Yeah, so The Blue is hands down one of the best music videos I've seen in quite some time. And to be clear, I love again a lot of the music videos I'm covering on the series, but this particular one I feel like is it's short, it's flawless, exceptional work overall, right? And yeah, Chess is based out of the United Kingdom, the UK. Yeah, I came across CHESUQI's work on Instagram one night, and I ended up, reading some of the comments on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram just to learn more, about the music releases, and in the reel shares that CHESUQI does is pin comments, within her reels, usually at the top a section from multiple others who automatically assumed it was AI. And what she does is show behind the scenes clips of her extensive editing steps and filming process. She also, emphasizes hashtag no AI, which is nice to see. Once again, I've shared on the series, I think it's really important, to do behind the scenes shares and showcasing some sort of breakdown of the work, behind the song's development and the music video production, right? As an artist, how it was made from scratch. It is really hard nowadays for, the human eye to distinguish what's AI and not, as it continues to advance. In most cases it's obvious, but not so much because of how much it's advancing, and it's pretty scary, right? Also, due to the surge of AI, everywhere, I think a lot of people forget, completely forget that traditional visual effects, VFX, artists, green screens has existed for quite some time. It's in the movies, we watch a lot of the films we've grown to love today, movies I grew up with, right? They had visual effects in it, right? That's existed for a very long time. I think if you look online, and I was looking at particularly the Wikipedia history of visual effects, and it's very fascinating. I encourage you to look at it and how far it goes back. I think it really took off like special effects in like the late 19th century and early 20th century. And it could be, I don't have the exact times memorized or anything like that, but do look into the history of visual effects artists. It's really cool stuff. Yeah. And I know even today, some films are starting to add in their, beginning portion of the movie or end credits somewhere, right? A disclaimer whether or not, AI was used in the film's creation too. Even some musicians and artists, I think Chess has done so even in captions on YouTube as well. And yeah, so not only, that, I recommend that you watch, if you go over to Chess's YouTube channel, and there is a video or a short film titled As We Enter the Unreal. And yeah, that one has like top notch zero gravity visual effects, like floating, that floating vibe and effect in it, right? And some of the other videos tied to the plush song I was looking at, right? And yeah, there's even a additional process video where Chasuki is going over a little bit, how everything came to be, even on social media, right? Chess is falling back on a small ladder. There's another one showcasing a metal fan to get that, flowing, nature of the hair. And she really goes to show her process, how a bit and further, removing or isolating elements out, from her own room and other things like that for like that as we enter the Unreal video. And I think I'm not too familiar with, various, applications in terms of special effects. Myself personally, I have predominantly done a lot of the I've predominantly done a lot of the digital collages and other stuff I've done with a lot of low cost, apps, even free ones, like ones that are open source. A lot of my graphic design work and photographic collages, right, and donations from friends, incorporating photos and Creative Commons, going out there. And I hand draw animations with my index finger, on the screen on my phone usually, and do a lot of video editing just off of my phone, and sometimes my tablet. But I'm not too familiar with Adobe After Effects particularly. I mean, I've done technical support for Adobe Creative Cloud and the Adobe Suite, but I think somewhere on social media it was like the key light feature, keying effect. I think that's what it's called when you're dealing with the green screen removal and doing some effect work, right? Particularly over things like that, right? There was one, I think, recently, a post with the hair flip. Even I think it mentioned the key light feature or keying effect. So I'm not 100% sure if that's actually what it's called, but I think that's what it was called. Yeah. So yeah, from her comment section, I saw that Chess took the time to learn the Adobe Suite in college. Either through university or while studying. I think uni, and yeah. So she appears to be completely self-taught, and you can absolutely tell that she enjoys experimenting, in her films, the music videos, and yeah, she really demonstrates that you can do a lot on your own without AI, right? Without that. And of course, it may take longer, but I think it is ultimately worth it. Myself being, a self taught cartoonist, right? Growing up doing that, and sort of diving into quite a bit of video editing and motion art, and photographic collages. I really like, that I think as artists, right? And that whole process of discovery, trial and error and growth is undoubtedly valuable, right? And yeah, so I think it's really tough nowadays. I think there is for artists, with that whole thing, dealing with those comments, right, of things like that, right? And yeah, so I really think it's nice to see process videos and stuff, or of course, putting maybe leveraging descriptions to share, or some artists and friends and community, I know they put messages to notify others, what tools they use, or even again, just something very simple, right? That it's not AI, right? And showing their steps and doing a breakdown video so others can see, and yeah, so I would say we not only see the superb quality of her special effects, directing, and editing work in the blue, but also we see her fan partake in the music video, which is super fun to see. I think it's as an artist, or if you're able to have your family, support things around you that you're doing or partake in a project, even friends or loved ones, right? And artists involves them in it, right? It adds a personal, fun touch to the video itself. So I recall seeing somewhere in a reel, I believe that it took her at least 3 months to make the music video. I could be wrong on that though. And yeah, so I don't like to say artists sound alike nor most absolutely have a unique style, absolutely in existence. And traditional artists, of course, right? So while listening though to the releases thus far that I have, right? I think there are four, right? And yeah, I will admit, like others, I was thinking about Grimes, James K. After the Band, and Vitesse. I think that's pronounced Vitesse X. Artists whose music sort of evokes like a 2000 nostalgia, or takes you back to, a couple decades, right? And gives off that vibe. So yeah, I do talk about cover art a little bit on the series because we're doing something over at Dipity Lit Mag around that a little bit, like an event. So more details to come, and a few other things. But so the single cover art is CHESUQI surrounded by laptops and I think circular stones. It appears, and coming from a tech support background, I enjoy the corporation of laptops and devices. So some know that follow Dipity and some of the other series that I've done, right? Blue is also my favorite color. So I listen to a lot of blue titled songs, absolutely, or mention blue in the song itself. And many blue things in nature are breathtaking, right? The sea, the ocean, the sky. The blue music video, I would say, generally, brought a smile to my face, particularly when we see the older couple dancing together towards the end or a little bit further down in the video. And it felt like initially when I was listening to it like a love song, reiterating that life is, obviously a wild journey as we all grow older and older, so does our environment, due to several factors. The blue, if you look at the lyrics in full, and mentions a sad blue animal and blue beast. So as I said, in other reviews, right, you can interpret songs differently. So initially, I was thinking about how some creatures go extinct due to rampant pollution, concrete jungles, shady tech giants, and greedy humans, right, who forget the value of nature around us, and they forget about not just the blue but the green, right? And I'm not talking about dollar bills. I'm not talking about that type of green, the green trees, the grass, all of that, right, that surrounds us. I was picturing, a whale and mammals, blue, endangered species. Nearly all animals in nature, right, have, partners, families too, right? And her YouTube channel also has a clip titled "The Earth is an Animal." And I wholeheartedly agree, with that. Our planet is a magical beast filled with mind bending mysteries. Chess, I think at some point in time when I was on a social media channel, that the song was sort of considered a love letter or song written for our planet. And if you, again, take the time to read the lyrics in full, you do perhaps see that it certainly could be a dedication piece to our rotating home as well, right? Our planet, has a pulse at its core, a heartbeat, right? If you look up the scientific aspects of the Earth's core, and yeah, it has a heartbeat just like ours, right, which requires care, right? And I think when I was doing research on the Earth's heartbeat and just a little bit further, I think it says like every 26 seconds there's like a pulse of some kind. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but either way, the Earth is, really amazing, right? And I think we can all agree like that. How everything came to be in existence is just, it's a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns, a lot of mysteries still today about the things that exist in the world. And yeah, so you were to listen to the blue without its music video, right? Which I was doing at some point in time too. I was sort of visualizing, clocks tumbling around someone's well, while being beside someone they care a great deal about. And it's sort of, for me, it's a song that reminds us how time affects us all, and that, gone feeling or grief can be super heavy when we lose others. It could be an animal, a pet, a human, somebody, or something we hold in our hearts for a very long time, possibly forever. And it's unbelievably hard. And the aspect of falling for another, um, safely, right? And, or seeing two hearts fall can be a beautiful thing, but it can also entail tragedy or sudden heartbreaking loss. Not to be grim, but hearts physically have an expiration date. The earth itself, right, is billions of years old, right, and aging and impacted heavily by human activity. And yeah, I was thinking also, that the aspect of falling for another safely or seeing two hearts fall can be a beautiful thing, but it can also entail tragedy or sudden heartbreaking loss, right? And not to be grim, but hearts physically have an expiration date. I was thinking how the song suggests that they're going soon, right? And not by choice, it is okay, right, to fall for another in time and venture into the unknown future together, right? Aging is part of life, and I think it's important to take the time to dance through it, right? Like in the video, right? So I really love that dancing aspect of the video. And yeah, um so in regards to the earth again, if you think about it, right, the earth itself is billions of years old, it's aging, and it's impacted heavily by human activity, right? If you look back at photos of plots of land from decades ago to now, a lot has changed, and again, it's heartbreaking. So yeah, I was thinking about those things, too. And so the song for me was, in on one hand, you could maybe someone listening to it maybe is thinking about a relationship, or on the other flip side, you may be thinking about the environment or nature or Earth itself, right? Or all things that are blue, right, and beautiful, right? Yeah, so I think that worm's eye view angle of the filming camera, where it's, you see everyone in a circle, right? And the bottom of the shoe, the bitten apple, and the leaping, the flying ties, right? Is terrific. And the additional details of the sky, the birds, and Chess sitting in a grass field between a super elongated stop sign and a no parking sign, right, are great abstract touches too. So yeah, I think you know the blue again, the song's music video again, exceptional work. It particularly felt like a mini film, to come across in theaters, and I think it's so cool to see it in like the cinema, right, or something like that. The song is soothing, and it gives you a sense of calmness and peace. Well, at least for me, sort of taking to an angelic plane, and it sort of makes you reflect on your own life and like the alternate pathways it could take, or at least again that's what I felt when I was listening to it. And when you listen to a song over and over again, that could perhaps, or usually means, right, it got you thinking, right, your gears turning, or that you connected to it in some way or form. It may have brought back memories for you, maybe even made you think about the past, present, or future, or someone who's a part of your life on this planet, right? And ultimately, if an artist, creates a profound impact on you, that is not easy to do so by any means, right? And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I gave this song. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I gave this song 5 out of 5. I can't think of anything else, to change about it at all. I think it's really stellar work again. And yes, and it was directed, shot, and edited by Chess, and I think and one of the co-producers of the song was Aaron Bryn, though noted here. So yeah, it's really cool, And again, I think it absolutely inspires others to take up maybe traditional visual effects work, and to not rely on AI, because you can do a lot again on your own. So yeah, I think it's great that Chess shares with others what studio equipment and software she uses through Patreon, right, an artist support page. Now I haven't gone into that or anything like that myself, but just like on the public preview portions, you can see the titles and some of the things that can be unlocked if you partake in the Patreon, right, support page. And yeah, I think that's great. I think even if you were to again put the same studio equipment and software in front of another artist or singer, right, they would not have the exact same output, right, as Chess or anyone else, right? And that's it's so important, right, in music, right, to develop your own style, to experiment, and to take risks, right? And I think Chess is creating a very rad world around her work, and it's super creative, absolutely. Most artists, right, do have a logo, and hers, as you'll notice, right, is a spitting cross, I think, with a connected slanted halo on top. And yeah, and a few of the music videos, plus on Instagram, I think she mentions even her stories that it was something scribbled in a journal or notebook initially, symbolizing a cycle continuing in perpetuity, or the complex, or tied to the complex ebb and flow turning points of life itself. And the halo is indicative of like seeing from above or looking beyond the expected, perhaps, a point of transcendence. There are some other things in the music videos there, but that's just what I got from stories and looking a little bit at the videos. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I think Chess has a really cool again world around her work that she's building out, and I think it would be. And yeah, the music videos, the blue and, the plush as we enter the unreal, right? And those, they're rather short films. I think it'd be really interesting to see maybe a longer, music video or full length feature film from Chess, right? I think that'd be really awesome. Like something longer in length, and that would be really cool to sit through and watch, absolutely. Or maybe tied to a bunch of her songs or an album release or EP or something, some artists I've discussed have done things like that, or done Q&As with, right? I think that'd be really cool. But either way, There's a lot of really cool visual effects work in just these short films that Chess is doing. Again, really love, as we enter the Unreal, like the tally marks on the wall with that one. And yeah, I think the blue has a lot of really lovely visual elements and very standout music video, right? It's one that, it gets you, it's one that you rewatch and and really take the time to think about it. I think from watching the video though, not everyone may perhaps connect it back to love song to earth, maybe, and yeah, I personally do. I really love that scene in the music video where there's, or scenes I should say, where the birds are like isolated out to white cutouts almost, over like faces and stuff a little bit, and the portion where I think the song sort of has that boomerang sound. I don't know what to call it, but it's really catchy. I like it, even for the dancing, right, portion. I think it was like 2 minutes and 3 seconds in. It could be wrong, but yeah, that boomerang sound we hear. And yeah, and with the dancing is really, really cool. So yeah, another portion of even where the gentleman is going through the rock pathways, and that portion, that's really cool too, and yeah, again the leaps with the tie, and it's very, very well presented, right? Absolutely. I can't think of anything to change about the music video or the song. It's really cool. And yeah, so it gets 5 out of 5 for me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Chess releases next, And I do apologize if I mispronounce the artist name CHESUQI. Yeah, but either way, but yeah, so just wanted to take the time to share that with you guys, my thoughts on the blue. And yeah, it was just one song I kept listening to. And yeah, it was again, I mentioned on this series, right? I've tended to listen to quite a lot of softer songs, right? In nature, particularly, it helps me, sleep. I'm not saying the song put me to sleep, but I'm saying, when you go through, let's say, physical pain or something like that, right? Music can be, can make you feel relaxed, chill, right? And music can be, healing in nature to us, right, too. And yeah, I think we all have, fave songs we listen to, when maybe, maybe it's not physical pain, but maybe you're having a cruddy day, right? And I think this is a song that's really uplifting, and the dancing in the video itself is really cool. And I think that's a great element of it. Again, I believe we should all, again, dance through life, absolutely, and take the time to dance. I I've always been a fan of, dance competitions and stuff like that. Obviously, I didn't enter any dance competitions, but I took up dance, perhaps not the style of dance I wanted to. It was a style my grandpa and my folks sort of, put me in. And yeah, I much rather would have liked tap dancing, guys, for sure. But yeah, def fun, and again, Chess's family was in this music video, and I think it's really, really great. That's awesome. And yeah, so uh the camera angles and the work of it are just really phenomenal, right? I think it's really unique how the shoe, goes above the camera lens and all of that, right? It's really a unique perspective, right? That angle, from how everything's filmed, the angles of it. Yeah, so thus far, a super, super creative artist. You should definitely give a follow, check out the blue. And yeah, the most memorable lyrics, before I go, I would have to say, I didn't just choose one line or lyric, I should say lyrics. For me was, again, follow my bright blue heart and safety. Time falls around you lately, gone soon. So yeah, again, if it is right, again, in fact, a dedication piece to our planet Earth, right? I think again, you have to remind yourself, right? The Earth is, also aging, right? And we don't have an infinite supply of resources, right, or anything like that, right? And a lot of things, right, are dependent upon human beings, right, to right help the planet, right, survive as long as possible, right, to take care of it is so important, and yeah, so I sort of made this into an environmental speech a little bit, not really, but a little bit. But yeah, the environment is absolutely important, and preserving it and taking care of it, right? So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, I again really love the songs. Just want to take the time to share it. So anyone who comes into contact with this review, please do check it out and give Chess a follow, on the Spotify and elsewhere. Again, that's CHESUQI. And yeah, I think that's it. One thing I want to mention before I sign off for this episode is that when I was initially watching the music video, and I forgot to mention this earlier, what crossed my mind was essentially everyone, in the video, for the most part, in the suits and ties, right? They were on a lunch break, right? Perhaps, or after work, get together in a sense, right? Because we see the buildings and, the, attire, right? It made me think of like a fun lunch break, right? Could be midday or after work, because we see the cigarettes, right? Maybe a cigarette break, or, there's the bit in apple, right? And, dancing. So, having fun and breaking from maybe the corporate world, that's what crossed my mind when I was watching this video back, so I just wanted to tack that on. Anyways, be sure to watch the process clip out on Chess's YouTube. I think it was June 20th, 2025. But if you go out to, social media like Instagram or TikTok and elsewhere, you'll see, clips of the process as well, and shares there along the way from the past, right? And that's really cool too. So yeah, love seeing artists show process diaries or snippets into their process, and yeah, it's a lot of fun to see again. So take care, guys. Yeah, and yeah, add the song to your playlist. Don't forget, yeah. And take the time to watch the full music video of the Blue again, and check out the plush, its live loop, and also Seed Heart, which is pretty cool too. And yeah,